Welcome back to the latest edition of the Goal Line Stand podcast. This is Jackson Caldwell. That is Kobe Reed. Kobe, how you doing, man?
Can you smell it, brother?
Yes, sir. We are 4 days away from week 0. I've been counting.
I love it. I can't wait, man. Look,
we get to watch UMass in prime time this week. While we can't watch the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and a team we're going to talk about today on the Pac-12 network, we do get to watch UMass in prime time. So,
dude, I'm ready for the Hawaii versus Vandy dogfight, brother. I'm waiting on it.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that for like 3 weeks last year. So it's good. But yeah, today it's been a big day, of course, across the nation. Starting quarterbacks are getting announced. We're previewing the Pac-12 today because, like we just said, we're 4 days away from week 0. We're almost just a week from everybody else kicking off, including Georgia Tech on that Friday night against Louisville in the Benz. So let's get to the big news today. We'll jump right into it. Obviously, it's been all I've been writing about today. Go check it out at allyellowjackets.com. But Brent Key named Haynes King the Texas A&M transfer as a starting quarterback. This came as a little bit of a surprise to some, and include myself. Full disclosure, I put out a projected depth chart on Sunday, and I had Zach Pyron. I did note that this was extremely close. It could go either way. My gut feeling was Pyron, but it's Haynes King. And I think Haynes King's looking to kind of, I won't say resurrect his career, but just kind of restart. He was a very, very highly rated recruit, went to Texas A&M. I put most of the blames on why he didn't pan out on Jimbo Fisher. I think some people do as well. The offense being too complicated. Just his quarterback coaching has just not been very good since he had Jameis Winston. So I think you can say that. And I just don't think the offense as a whole was any good. But enough about A&M. Look, he's athletic and he has a big arm. I know the throwing motion's a little funky, but I truly do think he can give this team a chance to win. And, Pyron's a good quarterback too. I do think it was a hard decision for Key to make, but the arm strength, I think the mobility and getting out on the edge, I think he does what Buster Faulkner wants to do on offense. And Chris Winkie, the quarterback's coach as well. I think he gives them a live arm. Georgia Tech has to be more explosive on offense this year to be successful. They have not been explosive,
especially in that passing game.
That there's a reason they added the receivers they did through the transfer portal, and he has a connection with Chase Lane, the receiver they brought in from A&M. Dominic Blaylock, Malik Rutherford, I think, is in for a big season. Christian Leary, they got to utilize the playmakers that they have, and there could be some bumps in the road. Everything's not going to be 100 to start the season, but Louisville's missing a lot of pieces on defense from last year as well, so he's going to have a chance to get off and running. But that was obviously the big news of the day. You got anything on Haynes King or any reaction to that?
Very happy about this. I mean, y'all know Jackson. He keeps me updated on all things Tech. He sent me the screenshot earlier today, and honestly, I really liked it the more I sat down and thought about it, because I think you hit the nail on the head. With this plethora of wide receivers y'all brought in this transfer portal in this recruiting class, y'all are going to need a guy that gives you the highest ceiling in the passing game. Georgia Tech has been very one-dimensional as of the last couple of years. You've had mobile QBs. I think Jeff Sims, he did his job for what he was working with there. But now you have a quarterback that can air the ball out and you can really open up a playbook. I think that's going to help out your defense. I think that's going to really help out putting points up on the board. I like it. I think it really raises the ceiling for this offense. And don't get me wrong, y'all got a good backup in case something tragic happens,
Yeah, and hopefully Haynes King can stay healthy, because that has been a struggle as well. But Haynes King is QB1 officially. You will see him next Friday night, and it's so good to say that. I'm not saying you'll see him down the line when they play Louisville. It's next Friday night. Yeah. I will be there at the Benz. Georgia Tech fans need to come out in droves to support their new quarterback and the team. Some other quarterback announcements we're going to get to, and we're going to get to this team in a little bit. DJ Uiagalelei was officially named the starting quarterback at Oregon State. There was some talk of him not being the choice maybe a month or so ago I was hearing, but I don't know that I ever bought into that. He was brought in there for a reason. Yeah. We'll dive in more to Oregon State, but he was officially named QB1 today. And who else was named QB1 today? It'll come to me in a minute. Terrific podcasting. But I guess let's just, we're talking about the Pac-12 today, and it's the last go around for the Pac-12. So we got to make this a great show. Send the Pac-12 out with a bang here. It is, I guess, officially the Pac-4 is, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford are kind of conferences at this point. Let's start off, I guess, with the lowest projected win total, and that is the Stanford Cardinal at 2.5. 2.5. I kind of gasped at that because let's wind the clock back about a decade, maybe a little longer, 10 to 12 years ago. It's one of the best programs in the country. After Pete Carroll left,
Mm-hmm.
Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw, I think Oregon had their run a little bit there, but like Stanford was kind of the flagship program in the Pac-12 for a little
heck, even in the Christian McCaffrey era, like they were a good team.
They were a weird Northwestern loss away from going to the playoff in 2015.
Yeah.
They lost 2 games that year. They lost the first game of the year to Northwestern, and then I think Oregon beat them on like a 2-point conversion. It was something funky that year, but they would have been in the playoff. Who knows what they'd have done, but like they were really good. The transfer portal era and this era of recruiting, I think, hurts them because I'm not going to – nobody's a dummy. It's hard to get into Stanford. Like they lose a lot in terms of grad transfers because of, it's hard to get into grad school at Stanford. So you have a lot of guys leaving. Yep. David Shaw obviously is gone now. Troy Taylor from Sacramento State is a new head coach, and I do like that hire. He was a very good FCS coach, and I hate the stigma around hiring FCS coaches from the lower level. Like he was a very good coach. Like that's where Jim Harbaugh came from. He was coaching at the University of San Diego, not San Diego State, San Diego. So you can find good coaches at that level. I just don't know that Stanford just has such a murky future. Obviously, there's been talks of the ACC and whatnot. I don't think the product on the field is going to be great this year. You start off next Friday against Hawaii, then you followed up by a trip at USC. They play Sacramento State, and that's kind of funny, but that's one game they're going to have to win. Arizona the next week, Oregon bye week at Colorado, UCLA, Washington, at Washington State, at Oregon State, Cal, and Notre Dame. So, look, games against Cal, Colorado, Arizona, Sacramento State, and Hawaii are winnable. And because of that reason, I do think Stanford's probably the worst roster on paper in that league, but I do think Troy Taylor's a good coach. I'm going to lean over on this just slightly because I do think they'll beat Hawaii. I think they'll beat Sacramento State. And I think they can get one of Arizona, Colorado, or Cal. Like I think they'll be one of those teams is gettable because 2 of them don't play defense and 1 can't score. So they can get one of those teams, but it's going to be a rough first year for Troy Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's not much more I can say about Stanford. They've really fallen off, especially in the last 10 years. We don't see any explosive things from their offense. I don't think they have the roster to be able to do the things they want to do offensively. Defensively, they are nothing to get excited about. 2.5, though, that is really, really low. And like you said, I think they could rattle off a game against probably Cal. I think that would be their best chance at this point. I think they can get 3 wins. I'm going to pick the over.
Yeah, like it's 2.5, unless you're UMass or like Hawaii or Nevada this year. Like I'm not picking it under on that because like 2 and 10 is just a low probability. But again, they're in transition. They actually are recruiting pretty well for the next year's class, but could be a rough debut. Arizona State, a 4.5 win total, and it just came to my mind. Jaden Rashada, the true freshman, is QB1 officially at Arizona State, and I'll talk about that for just a second. I think that's the right move. Like I know they brought Drew Pine in from Notre Dame, the transfer. He's fine. Like he would have been, if Rashada clearly wasn't ready, you could have just started Pine and been okay, I guess. But I think Kenny Dillingham hired. He's a rookie coach just like Troy Taylor. Offensive coordinator at Oregon, also has ties to Florida State. I think he's the youngest coach in the FBS now.
Oh, wow.
Really bright offensive mind. He did wonders with Bo Nix that I didn't think were possible last season. So I think there's upside in that hire. He's going to emphasize the high school recruiting, and especially with Arizona State going to the Big 12. Who knows what they're going to be there, but that's a topic for next year. As far as this year goes, their win total is set at 4.5. They start the year next Thursday against Southern Utah. Oklahoma State comes to Tempe, then Fresno State, USC. Their first road game of the year is actually at Cal. Colorado at home, bye week, and then they start a pretty rough stretch at Washington State at home for homecoming, at Utah, at UCLA, Oregon, and then finish up the year with Arizona. 4.5, like I can get you Southern Utah. I don't think Fresno State's a gimme. Like
No,
Fresno
not at all.
State's a really tough team. I don't think they're beating Oklahoma State even at home. Cal, Colorado, Arizona. Give me the under on 4.5. Like I do think maybe Rashada just clicks right away, and it's tough for a freshman, but he's really talented. I know everybody talks about the other stuff associated with him, but he is a really talented player.
Yep.
Maybe they can get 5, but I can't get there after I get Southern Utah, and I just don't think there's enough winnable games.
Yeah, I don't think they can get 5 games with that schedule. I do like Rashada starting at quarterback. I think Rashada would have been starting if he would have stuck with Florida. I think he's a really talented kid. I think if you go ahead and throw him in there in the fire his first year, while there's a bunch of conference realignment going on, go ahead and get this year out of the way. Whenever they move towards the Big 12, I think he's going to be way more prepared than him redshirting his freshman year. With that being said, you can't look at me with a straight face and tell me they can get 5 wins on that schedule. I just don't see it happening. Give me the under.
Kobe, did you hear that Colorado hired Deion Sanders? I don't know.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they hired Deion Sanders. That's kind of gone over.
Oh my God.
I don't know that anybody's
talking
about it. So if you're just now tuning in, Goal Line Stan just broke the news. Deion Sanders has been hired at Colorado, but their win total. This is such a fascinating football team. I know there's been way too much Colorado talk, but man, it's just such an interesting case because this is quite literally a different team than it was last year. Not just the coaching staff. Like they brought in, what was it, 70-something transfers? Like it's insane. And I'm not going to get into the whole if that's a proper way of team building and doing what Deion did, but Travis Hunter's in. Shadur Sanders is in at quarterback. They hired Sean Lewis, Kent State's head coach, as offensive coordinator, who has been one of the top offensive coaches in college football. Like I really like that hire. Cormani McClain, they flipped him from Miami. I guess it was on signing day or was leading up to it or something along those lines. But I'll say this. I think offensively, this team actually could be pretty good. Like they were one of the worst Power 5 teams I think I've ever seen last year. Defensively, this is going to be a challenge. Like this is going to be like they could be like the worst defense in the nation. Like it's going to be like in the 120 to 130 range. Maybe it won't be that bad. I don't know. I'm really skeptical, but long term, I think this has a chance to work.
Yep.
Let me name the schedule and tell me where the gimme win is, where you are just so sure Colorado's going to win a game.
Okay.
At TCU, no. Nebraska at home, that's not a gimme. Colorado State, I think that's the closest one you get to a gimme, but I don't know. At Oregon, L. USC, L. At Arizona State, that's toss-up. Stanford at home, that's toss-up. Bye week, at UCLA is an L. Oregon State is an L. Arizona is a toss-up. At Washington State is an L, and at Utah. Like your best chance for wins, Arizona, Stanford,
there's 4
Arizona State, and Colorado State.
Yep.
Their win totals at 3.5. They'll win a few of those games. They're not winning all of them. Give me the under. And it's not like I hate Colorado thing. It's just look at the schedule. And even the games that are winnable, like it's not a guarantee by any means. Like because of how bad I think they're going to be on defense, like Arizona's going to put up points. Like Arizona can score. They're going to be a similar team than what they were last year. Stanford, I think Stanford's going to be well coached. I think Troy Taylor's a really good coach. So you don't get Cal on the schedule, which is a team I would probably pick them to beat. But I just think it's going to be interesting to see if they go 3-9 or worse, how Deion handles that because he doesn't lose. So.
Yeah, give me the over. I think they can get 4 wins this season. It's the Deion Sanders show, baby. I trust him. I trust his football knowledge. And I think he's a pretty daggum good football coach. But what he's doing, he's really changing the dynamic of a football team. We see guys like this do this a lot. Everybody sees the destroying clips on TikTok and YouTube. You see AJ Green. You see Cam Newton 7-on-7 teams. And Deion was He had a huge part in that, just bringing fun to the game, bringing life to the game. Now you're getting those kids to kind of step away a little bit from big name Power 5 schools such as Cormani McLean and Travis Hunter, and you're getting those kids to go to schools like Colorado. Does NIL have something to do with that? I personally think so, but who cares? They're there. Let's play football. Let's bring a little bit more parity to the sport, which everybody seems to be begging for anyways. This is going to be their last year in this conference. It is a dying conference. We hate to see it, but I think Dion can walk in. I think he can at least get you 4 wins, maybe 5. I don't know where that 5th one would come, but if you look at all the talent they brought in the transfer portal and in high school recruiting, I think he has enough big names. He can get you 4 wins, if not 5. Give me the over. Now, as far as Shedeur Sanders Heisman talk, they're not going to give a Heisman to a 4-win quarterback. Not happening.
How surprised would you be to see them in a bowl game?
I would be very surprised, but honestly, like we've asked this before, like what does success look like for Colorado? They don't have to go bowling. They just got to get more than 1 or 2 wins. I mean, that's improvement, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, if they beat Colorado State, they beat Stanford, they beat Arizona State, that's 3. And they beat Arizona, that's 4. I just don't know where 2 more wins are coming from. Maybe at
also,
Washington.
this is the same conference that had a team that lost to Florida last year. The same Florida team that lost to Vandy.
That's
so
true.
You never know.
Maybe they go on the road, beat Washington State, but Washington State is a physical team and it's on the road. Maybe Nebraska is just not ready. I don't know.
I think Nebraska would be the 5th win. That's where
they're a big mystery, as we talked about in our Big Ten preview. But obviously, Colorado is going to be talked about a little, just a little. I guess let's get to the other member that does not have a home anymore, and that is Cal. There is nothing but bad vibes around this football program, whether you're talking about the debt in the athletic department. It's just not great around Cal. Their win total is set at 5. They go on the road and play North Texas. I don't know what that's about, but they're on the road at North Texas. Then they play Auburn, Idaho, at Washington, Arizona State, Oregon State, at Utah, USC, at Oregon, Washington State, at Stanford, at UCLA. Even if you told me they won Stanford, Arizona State, Idaho, and North Texas, they got to get 2 more to get over that win total? Absolutely not. Give me the under on this all day long.
Yeah, give me the under. I mean, like you said, Cal, they are in shambles right now as a program, as a university. Nobody seems to care about football over there. And when you have a school where nobody seems to care about football, you're not going to be very good at football. So let's just keep it that simple. Give me the under.
I think it's a shame too. I remember growing up, when USC was voted number 1 in 2003, when they split that title with LSU, who's the only team to beat them that year? Cal. They had a quarterback named Aaron Rodgers. They have put Marshawn Lynch, Deshaun Jackson, Justin Forsett, Javid Best,
Jared Goff.
Yes, they had a number 1 pick. I really hate what has happened to that football program. I know they weren't in a powerhouse, but man, did they used to be competitive when Jeff Tedford was a head coach. Even when Sonny Dykes, who takes TCU to the national title, but he's not good enough to coach at Cal, so they fired him. So I don't know. I hate seeing what's happening to Cal. I have no idea what their future looks like. I don't know.
It's so weird because look at their location, dog. That's West Coast territory where you got prime athletes all over the place and they can't stick their foot in the door anywhere. It's so weird to me.
And I hate really ragging on programs, but they really do seem like they do not give a crap. I hate what's happened to Cal football because they used to be a fun watch week in and week out. And the quarterback, Jack Plummer, transferred to Louisville. He's going to be their starter for Louisville next Friday night. So just a little nugget there. Moving on. So did you know that Arizona in their recruiting class this year has a 5-star committed? Yes,
Really?
They have the number 1 edge committed, Marvin Rushing. Yes, he is committed to Arizona. So maybe Jed Fish is building a little something out west Win total set at 5. They've seen steady improvement in the first couple of years. They
had
went
a pretty good transfer class too this past season.
Yeah, they won one game. Then they won 5 last year. They had some guys transfer out, like Dorian Singer, their top receiver. We know he's at USC. They lost a few defensive players from what was already a bad defense. So Jaden DeLora is back at quarterback, and he's a really fun player to watch. He started his career at Washington State. Jacob Coing is back at transfer from UTEP last year. He is a really good player. Like we talked about him on our receivers episode this offseason. Really, really good player. I still think this team's going to be able to score points. I have no idea if they can stop anybody. Like they're going to compete with Cal or Arizona State for the worst defense in this conference,
or Colorado.
Yeah. Win total set at 5. They get Northern Arizona to start the season. That's a win. Did you know they go into SEC territory and play Mississippi State? That's kind of interesting. I think they probably lose. Yeah. I'm not high on Mississippi State this year, but I think we've seen what happens when Pac-12 teams go to SEC country. Like it just doesn't work well. UTEP at home, probably a win. At Stanford, Washington at USC, at Washington State, bye week. Oregon State, UCLA, at Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. This at 5, like, man, if you told me they sweep some of the lower teams below them, at Arizona State, Colorado gets you 2, Stanford gets you 3, UTEP gets you 4, and Northern Arizona gets you 5. You got to get a 6 somewhere. I don't know what's the likelihood they get all those games, and then finding another one is tough. I hate to do it because I really do like Jed Fish and what he's done there. I just think 4 and 8 is more likely than 6 and 6. I mean, I would not bet this number 1 at 5. If it was at 5.5, to me, that's an easy under. Like I think 5 and 7 is probably where they're going to wind up. Like they could get a team because like they put like 30-something points on USC last year. Now I know USC's defense was hot trash, but like they can score points. Name that. But I don't know if you got any thoughts on the fish tank in Arizona.
I think they're building up towards something, but it's definitely not going to happen this year. Give me the hard under. 4 games is really realistic. I think, like you said, 5, I think that's still a little bit of a stretch. Offensively, I think they got receivers. I think they got the passing game. I think they can be able to put up points and move the ball downfield. But like you said, defensively, even though they added guys like Justin Flo from Oregon, former 5-star, they've added a couple names, but they've also had a lot of big names leave for their defense, and their defense already wasn't that good to begin with. So if you're getting in a shootout every week, and even then, I don't think they have the roster on offense to be able to keep up with the other names in the Pac-12. Give me the under.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they compete in the Big 12 because I think they're a team that I think they're going to be helped by doing that. I'm interested to see that. But moving on to our first win total that could get you bowl eligible, Washington State at 6.5. Here's how I feel about Washington State. The 5 teams we just talked about, Arizona, Cal, Colorado, Arizona State, Stanford. I think Washington State's better than. I don't think they're better than any of the 6 teams we're about to talk about. They're, to me, on an island by themselves. They're pretty solid. I don't think they're terrible. I just don't think their ceiling is high enough to where they can seriously contend for the Pac-12. I think Cam Ward, he was pretty decent last year. I think he was a little overhyped a little bit. Like there were some struggles he had, but there were some flashes you saw from him last year. And honestly, like Washington State had a chance to beat USC. That game was very close. Pullman is a tough place to play, and Jake Dickert in his second season, if anybody can go find what he said about the state of college football right now and everything's going, because Washington State's one of those teams that's left out there, and I don't know what their future is. Like they didn't get a Big 12 invite, they're not going to get one. They're definitely not getting a Big 10 invite, and they haven't been mentioned among the ACC. So I hate what's going on there. But just in terms of this year, win total set at 6.5. At Colorado State, they start out. They get the return trip from Wisconsin. Remember, they went to Madison and beat Wisconsin last year. And that was a game that likely got Paul Chryst fired, but that's a topic for another day. Northern Colorado, Oregon State, they get an early bye week, and then, they finish out the season at UCLA, Arizona at home, at Oregon, at Arizona State, Stanford, at Cal, Colorado, and at Washington State. They don't have to play USC, which is a pretty big plus, and they don't have to play Utah. Like, they're going to beat Colorado State. They're going to beat Northern Colorado. man, if they got Arizona State's 4, Stanford 5, Cal 6, Colorado 7, I think they're probably good enough to possibly upset one of those top teams. Give me a slight over at 6.5. Like I think 7-5 is probably where this team lands. I think it's probably more likely than 6-6. I like the over on Washington State.
Give me the under, but it is a slight under. I do think they end up going bowling, but I think 6 wins is where it stops. They're just one of those teams where I don't want to put that much expectation on them, because if a game is left up to a bad bounce of a ball, if a game is left up to a coin toss, I don't know that they have the roster to be able to pull that out. Like you said, Cam Ward, he showed spurts here and there, but he was very hyped up going into that spot. Same as they kind of threw him in there with Michael Penix a little bit. I think that's a lot of where the hype came from. We expected similar seasons from them. We saw Michael Penix shine. We saw him in the stat sheet. We did not see that very much from Cam Ward. Yeah, give me the under. I think 6.5 might be a little too high, but I definitely think they can go bowling this year.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it would not surprise me if they upset one of those teams this year. Like I know, like Washington, UCLA, and Oregon State better be careful. Like I think they can get one of those teams. But from here on out, I think I can make the case for each of these next 6 teams to make the Pac-12 title or possibly win it. Whereas the others, I don't feel as strongly
You're
about.
going to have to persuade me. You're going to have to persuade me.
And I'm going to start with my beloved Oregon State Beavers. Like no other place that I'd rather start for this section of it than Corvallis, Oregon. Look, I was on them last year. I didn't know that they'd win 10 games, which is what they did, and they absolutely beat the crap out of Florida in that bowl game. And now, to be fair, I don't think Florida cared about that. Anthony Richardson didn't play. Florida that they did not want to be in Vegas that day.
Yeah.
Like I said at the top of the show, DJ Uiagalelei, former 5-star top 10 recruit, starting quarterback at Clemson. He is now the starting quarterback at Oregon State officially. They have one of the top running backs in the Pac-12 in Damian Martinez. They probably have the Pac-12's best offensive line. Now, they did lose their best defensive player, lost a linebacker to LSU in terms of transferring. Win total set at 8.5. They start the season off pretty light at San Jose State, UC Davis, San Diego State, at Washington State. To me, their first big test is on a Friday night at home against Utah. Like that is really going to tell us if Oregon State's for real. Then they go to Cal the next week, get UCLA for homecoming. Off a bye week, they'll have at Arizona, at Colorado, and Stanford. And then they finish up with a tough 2 games, Washington, and possibly the last Oregon State game ever. I hope that's not the case, but, man, that sucks if that's the case. Here's the thing. Like when me and you were talking about this pre-show, I always get concerned with teams that don't recruit very highly. They come out jumping, surprise everybody, and then everybody's on them the next year. And they won 10 games last year. What are they going to do this year? Man, it just doesn't always work out that way. However, their quarterback play was bad last year. Like it was just really bad. I don't know if DJU is any good anymore or not. Like there was no sugarcoating. Like I think some of the problem was Clemson and that offense, but he has issues of his own. But I do think Jonathan Smith is a very good play caller. However, I got to go under. I think 8-4 is probably where this team lands. I think you're not going to want to play this team because, again, they're going to run the ball really well. They're going to play good defense. I just haven't seen enough from DJU to make me say they're a real Pac-12 contender, although I think that case can be made. Like if he really does improve and
he hits his ceiling,
if their quarterback play is significantly better than it was last year, this team is for real. Like they're going to be a real problem to deal with. But just because I'm unsure of that, I think 8-4 is probably where they land. Give me the under, and I hate to do it.
Am I a little bit higher on your Beavers than you are? I think I might be. I think because, like you said, quarterback play was not very good, not very consistent last year. I think we see DJ Uiagalelei that we thought we were going to see coming out of high school. That same DJ that got them a win against the No, they didn't. They didn't beat Notre Dame that year, did they? That COVID year, or did they?
I'm not sure right offhand. No, yeah, they beat Clemson that year.
They beat them in the conference championship, but I think they lost because Trevor Lawrence was out.
Yeah.
Either way, we saw what DJ could do his freshman year. I think we see that version of DJ, and I think we see him more mature, a more experienced. I think we see a little bit more of the dual threat DJ. I think we're going to see him run the ball. They said he's in great shape. You got to remember, this kid is still a 6'5", 240-pound kid. Like, he is an Anthony Richardson type body style. I think he can throw it. I think he can run it. I think he really elevates the ceiling for this team. I think they could get 9 wins if he's playing his best. Now, if he is playing like DJ we saw the last couple of years at Clemson, then we're going to have an entirely different conversation. But I think he has new scenery, new play calling. I think that he can really elevate. Give me 9 wins for the Beavers.
And one thing, like, I hate to take shots at the Pac-12 while it's dying, but like one of the reasons this conference has been struggling is because we have Utah and Oregon State, 2 of the best teams in the conference, playing at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. Yeah, that's a problem.
That's an issue.
But they don't have to worry about it anymore. So, anyway, we've got 3 teams grouped at 8.5 wins right here. UCLA, I think, is one of the most interesting teams in the
I don't know what to do with them, man. I really don't.
Yeah, and it's their win total is set at 8.5. Now, you would think with a team losing an experienced quarterback like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, who was very, very good last year.
Very good running back.
Not getting enough love last year. And he's going to make noise with the Seattle Seahawks this year.
Yep.
Maybe the best defense in the Pac-12, dare I say. Like, people don't think about that with the Chip Kelly coach team, but, man, that defensive line, I'm telling you, they can get after the quarterback. And if you can do that, it improves your whole defense. Will Dante Moore be the starter day one? They haven't said yet. Now, they have some other guys in competition. They brought Colin Schlee in from Kent State, who played under Sean Lewis, who's now at Colorado. And they had Ethan Garbers, who was a former highly rated recruit. I think he started his career at Washington, I believe. Yeah. Again, this is going to be a very interesting team. To start the season off, they have like a really – Coastal Carolina comes to the Rose Bowl. Like, that's kind of – Grayson McCall's still there. I'll say this, Chip Kelly has had a penchant for not caring about non-conference games because, remember, South Alabama got them last year. And going back to his days at Oregon, sometimes they sleepwalk through some of these games. So Coastal's not beating them, but, like, keep an eye on that game because the score could be stranger than you think. At San Diego State, NC Central, their first real test is at Utah, and they handled Utah last year. Like, that, it was weird seeing Utah get pushed around like they did last year, but they did. They have a bye week. Washington State at home, at Oregon State, at Stanford, Colorado, at Arizona, Arizona State, at USC, and Cal. Like, they don't play Oregon.
Yeah.
They don't play Washington. Going at USC is not a big deal for them. Like, you're just going – it's like going across the street.
Yeah.
It's not straining your travel. At Oregon State and at Utah are tough, but I don't think it's crazy. Give me the over on this all day long. If Dante Moore starts and hits his ceiling, this is a dark horse playoff contender. I think I'm willing to go there. I think their defense is that good, and again, that schedule is just manageable. It's so manageable. I think that's the part about it. They're a little bit like Louisville, how we talked about Louisville and Oklahoma State. Like, do I think this team is playoff talent good? Probably not, but I think they have a higher ceiling quarterback than either of those teams, and their schedule is very manageable. Give me the over 8.5 all day.
Yeah, give me the over. I can easily see this being a 9 or 10 win team. Like you said, I don't think the roster is playoff caliber, but I think it is an elite caliber for their schedule. If their schedule plays out right and all the chips fall where they need to, I can see this easily being a 10-win team, only a 2-loss team. Dante Moore, I think he will be named the starter. I mean, I don't think he would have gone there if he wasn't going to be the starter day one. Very talented kid, kind of kid that Chip Kelly can really bring to his fullest potential. I think that they can do something. Imagine if they were to upset a team like USC. Imagine if they were to pull one of those major upsets. I think you're right. They could very well, if they ended up winning the conference or at least being 1-loss conference runner-up, something like that, you don't know. They could very well sneak their way into the playoff with that schedule.
Yeah, I think everybody's looking for that team, almost TCU-like team, is who could be sitting here at the end of the season. And while we don't know if roster wise or on the field, they're playoff caliber, but they're sitting right there in the conversation. To me, that's UCLA. But moving on, the other team with an 8.5 win total is the team that has won 2 straight conference championships, and that is Utah, who we don't know if Cam Rising is going to play, and apparently their quarterback situation is murky against Florida. That's all we're saying. That line has dropped from 10 to about 6.5. That indicates that, if the game wasn't in Salt Lake, that
maybe Caesars is scared of Graham Mertz, baby.
Yes. We know that to be true. They have 4 of their first 5. If they can't get this quarterback situation right, have you seen their schedule for the month of September?
No, let me hear it.
Florida, at Baylor, Weber State, that's a win, UCLA, and at Oregon State. Is
there a chance they walk out of there 1-4?
Are they going to be 1-4? Probably not, because again, you doubt Utah at your own risk.
They're just such a solid program year in and year out, dude.
Name me a Utah team that was really bad.
They're just so technically sound. They are a good football program. It doesn't matter that they don't have every 5-star in the world. They don't even have every 4-star in the world. But they got dudes that can play, and they play very well as a unit. It's not hero ball. It's not just one dude carrying the load. Everybody contributes. All 11 guys on offense, all 11 guys on defense. They just are very solid year in and year out. I think they can easily be an 8 or 9 win team, but I see that's where their ceiling is because, like I said, I just don't think their roster can do it. And they somehow lost to Florida last year. I think once they start facing higher, more talented teams, I think that's where we're going to see the drop off just a little bit. But it's not going to be much. They're going to make every game competitive. We've seen that. They can beat a team like USC. They can score with just about anybody. Well, also their defense can play very solid and keep the game close. So I see maybe 9 wins being their ceiling, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I didn't even tell you the second half of their schedule. So they get a bye week after the Oregon State game. Play Cal at home, at USC, Oregon at home, Arizona State, at Washington, at Arizona, and Colorado. I mean, back half schedule, get USC, Oregon, and Washington. 2 of those.
That's still a gauntlet of a schedule, though.
For a Pac-12, that is a really tough schedule. I don't want to do this because it's going to make me look so dumb.
Don't do it.
Give me the under.
Don't you do it. You know ball better than this. Don't you do it.
Yeah, and my gut's telling me when Utah's 9-3, you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to be ashamed. But give me the under. It's just the quarterback situation freaks me out because if they're not ready to go right off the bat, they could be 0-2 because you remember how high I am on Baylor. Yeah. So remember that. All right, we're going to round it out with these top 3 right here, all set at 9.5. And I'm going to start, spoiler alert, with my most overrated team in the Pac-12, and that is the Oregon Ducks. Look,
I'm right there with you.
Kenny Dillingham, I just think he was a really good play caller, and I think it's not going to be easy to replace him. I think the guy they hired out of UTSA, I think, is a very good play caller. Their receivers are just to me. I think Troy Franklin is
Troy Franklin he's a ball player, but outside of that,
their defense, it wasn't good last year. They had a first-round corner in Christian Gonzalez and some other good players, but their defense just didn't mesh last year.
Yeah.
I just, I don't want to make this all about Bo Nix, but are we getting the same level of him this year? Because even if they do,
he regress back to Auburn Bo Nix?
Or is he maybe is there a happy medium where he's good but struggles some? Look, we're going to know a lot about this team that week 2 game at Texas Tech. That's going to be, because that game's on the road, and while I'm not as high on Texas Tech as some others, that's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. They have a pretty soft open to the schedule, though. Portland State is a win. After the Texas Tech game, they get Hawaii, Colorado, and at Stanford, and then they get a bye week before they have to go at Washington, Washington State at home, at Utah, Cal, USC, at Arizona State, and Oregon State for possibly the last what was formerly known as the Civil War.
Yeah.
Give me the under on this team. I think with how high I am on UCLA, and I trust Utah more, even though I took the under there. Just give me the under on Oregon. I'm low on them this year.
Yeah, give me that under. I'm right there with you. How do I say this politely? I don't trust Bo Nix to carry that team on his back. I just don't trust him. I don't. Like, he had a great year last year and he progressed a lot, and I'm more than willing to admit that. I will give credit where credit is due, but you can't ask this kid to go get you 10, 11 wins by himself. You can't ask him to do that. They lost a lot on that defense, on a defense that already wasn't good. Christian Gonzalez is gone. Noah Sewell is gone. Justin Flo is gone. Your linebackers and your DBs, they're not going to be near as good as the talent you've had on the team the last couple of years. With that being said, I don't see their offense being overly dominant. Like, it really just depends on Bo Nix, but if he doesn't have the playmakers around him, what more can he do? I think he was a little bit more efficient running the ball last year, but he can't do that, or else he's putting himself in another situation that he was in at Auburn, where he's just getting beat up every play. He's completing 50% of his passes because he just can't find people that's open. I don't know if they have the playmakers to do that. I don't think they have the talent or the roster to hang with a team like USC or something like that. And Oregon State, if DJ is what we think they will be, Oregon State can walk in and lay it on them last game of the season, and that could really just mess them up all the way around. So give me the under. I don't want to put too much expectation on this Oregon team. But with that being said, I really like Dan Lanning going into year 2. I really do. I think he could progress. I like him as they head into the Big Ten, or not Big Ten. Well, yeah, Big Ten,
Yeah,
right?
Big Ten. He
Big
had
Ten.
it the first time. Yeah.
There's so much conference realignment. Nobody can get it anymore. But yeah, Big Ten, I like him making that move with the team. But I don't think this year that they're going to be near as good as what they were last year, if I'm being honest with you.
Yep. Moving on to their arch rival, the Washington Huskies. I talked about this team a little bit towards the end of last season and going into this year. And we did a little bit of an early preview back in January and February. Me and you both like this team. Michael Penix gave us a middle finger and went out and was a top.
Hey, I'm gonna call you out right now. You were not on the Michael Penix hype train last summer.
No, I guilty as charged.
He listened to the pod. He heard all of Jackson's criticisms, and he just said, "Screw it! I'm gonna have the second best passing offense in the country
with 2 NFL receivers."
Yes,
Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, and Chris Polk is their number 3. Find me a better. Maybe Ohio State.
Do they have a top 3 wide receiver room in the country?
Yes. Ohio State, Washington, LSU. There's your top 3.
Oh, not Texas or USC. Come on now, that's a conversation.
You know I'm high on LSU. But all that's back. Their defense, Braylon Trice, one of the top pass rushers in the country. Yeah. Like
one of the best.
Defense has to get better though. If this team, I think they're a dark horse playoff contender. I don't even know if it's a dark horse is right word. They're
not a dark horse. I mean, they're a top 10 team this year. Yeah. I really believe that.
They start the year off Boise State, which is like the Chris Peterson Bowl. You know, Chris Peterson coached both programs. Tulsa at Michigan State, Cal at Arizona, Oregon after a bye week, Arizona State at Stanford, at USC, Utah at home, at Oregon State, and sadly, possibly the last Apple Cup we're ever going to get against Washington State. Give me the over on this team. I just talked about some teams I was not as high on. I love this team. Now, going back to the Oregon State conversation a little bit, Washington massively overachieved, and I do wonder, like, okay, what can they do to further their ceiling? They already had arguably the top passing offense in the country. Assuming they stay that way, I guess you're assuming if you're betting this team to go over and possibly make a playoff run, their defense is going to improve significantly.
You got to trust that defense.
Because if there's any offensive drop-off and the defense doesn't improve, the under is going to happen. Like their schedule's tough, but I weirdly trust this team. I think Kalen DeBoer is one of the best coaches in the country. He wins everywhere he goes. Fresno State, lower levels. He is a winner. Give me the over on the Huskies. I love this team.
Give me the over. Even if their defense doesn't get better, I think their offense still gets better. And that's saying something because they had a top 3 offense last year in the country. I think they're going to be very, very good. If it comes down to getting in a shootout, I'd like them to hang with just about anybody, if not beat just about anybody in a shootout. They're going to be electric. They're going to be fun to watch. Like you said, I think they have a top 5, arguably top 3 wide receiver room in the country. I think that Michael Penix solidifies himself as a top quarterback in this league. I really do. With that being said, I think they have, and I'm spoiler alert. I think they have the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year in Braylon Trice. I think
Oh,
he is.
same.
I really think he's that good, but you got to get a team around him. You got to get people in that back end because you're going to have teams like Oregon State. You're going to have teams like USC. You're going to have teams like Utah, UCLA. All of them are going to be able to move the ball up and down the field very comfortably. You got to have a defense that's going to step up and make plays. All they have to do is just be as good as they were last year because I think their offense is going to be better than they were last year. I like Washington a lot. Give me the over.
All right, to wrap up, we got the team that made it last year, a team I was cautioning people on a little bit last year, but I'm all in. USC, to me, at 9.5, hit the over.
Hey, I got a question real quick. Have they named their starting quarterback?
USC?
Yeah.
To be determined. We'll see what happens against San Jose State this weekend, but rumor is it's going to be the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and presumed number 1 draft pick, Caleb Williams, who is also going to be the offensive player of the year in the Pac-12 this year.
The real freaking deal.
Yeah, I put Caleb Williams on that Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck NFL prospect tier. I really do. Like, I think he is unbelievable. Look, I'll say this: they're going to be on snooze the first half of the year.
Yeah.
Schedule includes at San Jose State this weekend, Nevada, Stanford. We know Stanford's going to struggle this year. Yeah. They get an early bye week, and I hate that for them.
I don't like that for their schedule. I don't.
At Arizona State, at Colorado, and Arizona, and then the fun begins. At Notre Dame, Utah, at Cal. Their last 3 games of the season are Washington at home, at Oregon, and UCLA. That's tough. That's tough. But I still give me the over. I think this is the most complete offense in the country. I think getting Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina as running back to pair with Austin Jones, love that. Mario Williams, Dorian Singer, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, get to know the name Zachariah Branch. I'm telling you.
Kid's a stud. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
Go watch his highlights and then tell me in a Lincoln Riley offense he's not going to be productive. I also think that the Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end, he's going to make plays. I think he's going to get playing time this year. USC's looking for a playmaker at tight end. And their offensive line is going to be really good. Like, I think it's going to rival Oregon State's as the best in the conference. Can they
go ahead and address the elephant in the room? Go ahead and address it.
All right. Barrett Alexander gets all the attention he should. Like, he's a former top 50 recruit. Anthony Lucas is somebody people need to keep an eye on. He was a former top 50 recruit, went to Texas A&M. Mason Cobb, all Big 12 linebacker at Oklahoma State. He steps in now. I think their secondary was the best part of that defense last year, and I know that's like not saying a whole lot, but
because you still got kids like Damani Jackson back there, a 5-star corner. Like,
and I heard listening to the camp intel, you read like he's taking some steps. Like, there was a reason Bama wanted him bad, so it was. Yeah. I think the defense makes enough improvement. Like, Alex Grinch, buddy, you don't have to have a top 5 defense. I would never expect that from you. Can you get in the top 50? Like, can you get in the top 50? Like, watching them play defense last year was it was awful. Like, even in their wins, like UCLA running up and down the field on them, putting 45 points on them, at least you had Caleb Williams. So, look, I'm in on this team. I think they're going to be a playoff contender. Now, do they make the playoff? I don't know. But the back half of that schedule, it's going to be tough to lose.
Tough, man. That's a tough schedule.
Give me the over.
Give me the over. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. They got the best player in the country, and that is Caleb Williams. I love how they're trying to compare him to Patrick Mahomes, but I'll do you one better. He reminds me of a cat that played quarterback at Clemson for a national title back in 2016. Very reminiscent of Deshaun Watson. It's not so much that he has all the flair of Patrick Mahomes, the arm strength, all that. He just makes plays. That was Deshaun Watson at Clemson. Like, every week, he was going to come in. He was going to be efficient. He wasn't going to turn the ball over that much, but he was going to air it out. He was going to get you touchdowns, and he can scoot with his legs, but he doesn't rely so much on his legs. I think this kid is going to be the first overall pick. I think it's a no-brainer. I think he is that good. Like you said, he is in that Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck echelon of quarterbacks coming out of college. Then you surround him with a Mario Williams, Zachariah Branch, Dorian. Like, kid has all the resources he needs to have another Heisman campaign. That defense, I think they will upgrade. I very well think this could be the best Lincoln Riley defense we've seen in his tenure as a head college football coach. I think he has the talent, the roster to do it. He has enough 5 stars and 4 stars on that defense to be able to make a step, at least in a better trajectory than they were last year, because last year was abysmal. Like you said, if they can be a top 50, maybe even a top 70 offense or defense this year, you're looking at a playoff team, and it's that simple.
Yep. All right, rapid fire to end this podcast. I'll just run through my best non-con games really quick. USC Notre Dame. I don't have to explain them too much. One of the best rivalries in college football. Should be top 15 matchup. Oregon Texas Tech. We talked about a little bit. Washington State Wisconsin. We've talked about on the Big Ten pod. That's just in Washington State. That's a big game. Utah versus Florida. Utah needs to win that game. Like, they do not need to start off with another loss to Florida. And then Colorado, Nebraska, throwback to the Big 12. It's going to be – I want to see if Colorado can compete in that game. Like, that could tell us whether Colorado hits their over or not. Any different games, any different matchups for you as far as that goes?
Honestly, I think my favorite game is going to end up being Colorado and TCU. I really want to see what Deion can do in his first game at a Power 5 school. And honestly, I think this will give us a little bit more insight into what we're going to be seeing from TCU this year. I mean, they had that Cinderella run last year. They made a national championship game. The outcome really didn't matter. Georgia was just that good. They could have done that to just about any other team that made it. But I think we're going to find out very early on what this Sonny Dykes team is looking like. And I think Deion is going to come out balls to the wall, airing it out. His son Shador is going to be making plays all over the field. I think they got the running backs. I think they got Travis freaking Hunter, and I think they got the guys that they can make that game really interesting.
In terms of conference games, a lot of it has to do with the top guys in the conference, top teams in the conference.
It's just
USC, Washington.
It's just a carousel. Like, he's going to be the same double
Utah,
team.
USC, Washington versus Utah. And I threw 2 games in there because I'm worried we're never going to get to see them again, and that's Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington, Washington State. Look, I love those rivalries. I hate that they're possibly going away, but I can't wait to watch them at least one more time on the same day, nonetheless.
Yeah. I think my favorite game out of these conference games is going to end up being UCLA and USC. I think UCLA could pull it off this year. I think they are talented enough to pull it off this year. They almost did it last year, but a kid named Caleb Williams stole the show.
I was going to say my most underrated team, I said UCLA. I talked about it at length. Do you have a different pick?
My most underrated, give me Colorado. Give me Colorado. I'm so serious. Give me Colorado, because here's the thing. It's Deion Sanders, bro. I think he has the football mind that he's going to put his team in positions to upset some people. I really do.
Overrated, it's Oregon for me.
Oregon Ducks, without a doubt.
Bold prediction. Mine is I think they're going to come close. I don't think the Pac-12 gets a team in the playoff.
I think
Caleb, eat each other alive.
I think Caleb Williams repeats as a Heisman.
Okay. Ooh, wow.
I really do.
Second time ever, right?
Yep.
Coach of the year, Lincoln Riley. Kalen DeBoer got it last year. I was trying to find an upset pick, but it's Lincoln Riley. I think they're going to have the best team in the Pac-12 this year.
I'm going to be different. Give me Chip Kelly.
Okay, that is a good choice, and one I could easily talk myself into. Offensive player of the year. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm not even answering that question. It's so disrespectful. And we've already seen defensive player of the year is easily going to be Braylon Trice. We were both wavelength about that. So, I've got USC over Washington to finish it out, USC over Washington to finish it out, although I was so tempted to put UCLA in that game. But, man, I hate this is the last Pac-12 preview we're ever going to have. Any thoughts about this conference or anything overall before we get out of here?
God, I hope they go out with a bang this year, man. I mean,
they have the teams to do it.
Yeah.
They have the teams
I hope they go out with a bang. I think the talent is spread pretty evenly, especially within those top 5 teams. I think they go out and they make America regret for whatever's happening to this conference right now.
Stay up late and watch these games. Please stay up late and watch these games. They're going to be good. Those top 6 teams. And look, you can make even those teams with low win totals, like there's plenty of reasons to watch Colorado. Jaden Rashada gives you a reason to watch Arizona State. Arizona's going to be a fun team.
Yep.
watch these games. That's going to do it for us. Only thing we have left to do now is discuss college football playoff and Heisman, and that's coming soon. So we will be back for that. Obviously, it will be after week 0, but I don't think San Jose State's beating USC, so I don't think anything earth-shattering is going to happen this weekend in terms of playoff picks. But That is Kobe Reed. Go follow him on social media. Make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. That would help us out a ton. We appreciate it. We appreciate any support that we get. We're really thankful we get to do this and talk about something we're really passionate about.
Be sure to another fantastic season.
Yes, sir. Go check out allyjackets.com. Look, content's coming. I'm typing as fast as I can, as I possibly can. We got Louisville next week. Haynes King just being named the starter. We got all kinds of content going on over there. I'm going to be at the Benz next week. Hope to see some of you guys there. So with that being said, that is Kobe Reed. This is Jack.